Imagine being part of a secret plot to overthrow God. 17 of you in total. Your motives are diverse. Some want power, others believe it's for the universe's own good, and you succeed. But the fallout creates 16 warring deities that threaten to tear reality apart. Hi guys, my name is Jason, and I'm an author of epic fantasy myself. I love dissecting the moments that change history in fantasy lore like this. Today we're not just talking about Adonalsium, the original god of the Cosmere. We're telling the story of its death, the weapon forged from the commands of creation, and the 16 conspirators who became gods themselves. Before the Cosmere had 16 gods, it had one, an entity known as Adonalsium. All magic in this universe, what's called investiture, comes from this single source. Every Allomancer on Scadrial burning metals, every Surgebinder on Roshar lashing themselves through the sky, they are all ultimately using a tiny sliver of a dead god's power. But what was Adonalsium really? The mystery starts there. Scholars in the actual universe of the Cosmere still debate whether it was a conscious, thinking being or just a vast, impersonal force of nature. The most knowledgeable observers, like the world hopper Chrysala, suspect it was a being, something that could think and choose. The fact that it could be killed certainly points that way. But the truth is ultimately lost to time, and we don't even know if Adonalsium was its name or a title. What we do know is that Adonalsium was the creator. It shaped reality into its three core components: the physical, the cognitive, and the spiritual realms. It designed worlds, created life, and set the fundamental laws of magic. It was so powerful that it exercised direct control over these laws. If Adonalsium didn't want something to happen, simply couldn't. One of the ancient Spren on the world of Roshar describes a memory of Adonalsium as a caring god. But if it was so benevolent, why did a group of mortals conspire to murder it? That contradiction is where our story truly begins. The universe Adonalsium created was not random. It was a work of incredible deliberate design. Take the planet Yolen, for example. This was the original home of humanity, but they weren't alone. They shared the world with ancient, powerful dragons and a lesser-known species called the Shodel. It was on this world, filled with unique and dangerous unstable magic, that the seeds of rebellion were sown. Yolen was the stage for the greatest crime in history. But to see the true extent of Adonalsium's work, we have to look at the Rosharan system. Adonalsium didn't just let this star system form naturally, it manufactured it for a specific unknown purpose. The planet Roshar itself has a continent whose shape is based on a complex mathematical pattern called a Julia set. And this wasn't an accident, it was grown. On this world, Adonalsium created life tailored to the planet's brutal storms, including the ancient singers, a species that could hear the very rhythm of the planet. It also created three primeval godlike spren: the wind, the stone, and the night. This was a god who worked as a grand architect, an engineer on a cosmic scale. Adonalsium was in complete control the entire time, and for some, that complete control was the problem. Opposition to Adonalsium wasn't a new idea. At least one previous plot to destroy it had already failed, but this time was different. A group of 17 individuals from Yolen, humans, dragons, and Shodel came together. Their reasons were as varied as they were. Some, like a man named Reyes, simply craved the power for themselves. Others had more philosophical motives. A woman named Coravelium Avast believed one god could never meet the diverse needs of all life. She argued that a single solution, a single will, could never work for everyone. The most cryptic motive belonged to a man named Tanavast. He claimed that they were acting for Adonalsium's own good. What could possibly drive someone to believe that killing God was an act of mercy? This diverse group, including a mysterious man we now know as Hoid, developed a weapon unlike any other. They took the four Dawn Shards, the primal commands of reality that Adonalsium himself had used to create the universe, and weaponized them. They forged a tool of uncreation, designed to dismantle the very being that had built their existence. And the ultimate irony is, to kill a god, they would use the word of God against it. Now, speaking of building entire universes, that's something I think about a lot, and I actually keep these videos free of sponsors and mid-roll ads because the channel is totally self-funded. But I do have something you might be interested in. It's my fantasy all-access library, and it's where you can get every fantasy book that I and my team have written, all set in a massive shared universe where all of Earth's mythologies are real and coexist. I think you'll really like it. It's how I'm able to continue to make videos like this one. And if you're curious, the link is down below. With their weapons ready, the 17 conspirators confronted Adonalsium on Yolen. We don't know the exact details of the confrontation, but we know the most important part. According to Tanavast, who was there, Adonalsium didn't fight back. It simply let himself be killed. He theorized that if Adonalsium had resisted, the resulting battle would have unleashed destruction on a scale that could have obliterated the entire Cosmere. By choosing passivity, Adonalsium may have sacrificed itself to save its own creation. Was it the final act of a caring god, resigned to its fate for reasons we can't comprehend? Ultimately, the act succeeded. The Dawn shard weapon struck and Adonalsium was killed. Its infinite power didn't just vanish, it was fractured into 16 equal pieces. The shattering, as it came to be known, was a single catastrophic event that forever changed the nature of magic and divinity. 16 of the 17 conspirators each seized one of these fragments of power known as shards, and in that moment they stopped being mortal and ascended to becoming gods themselves. But except for one man, the man named Hoyd, who refused. He was offered a shard and he turned it down, a decision that has echoed through the ages. Each shard embodied a single specific aspect of Adonalsium's original nature: honor, ruin, preservation, cultivation, odium, and 11 others. Think of it like taking a complex personality and isolating a single trait, like kindness or anger, and amplifying it to a divine absolute level. These new gods were powerful, but they were also fundamentally broken by this. The shattering was not an end, but a new and more chaotic beginning. The 16 new gods, once allies in their conspiracy, scattered across the stars. Many had promised not to interfere with one another, but those promises were quickly broken. Two of them, ruin and preservation, traveled to an empty system and created the world of Scadrial. Two others, honor and cultivation, went to the world Adonalsium had built, Roshar, and became the new gods of the singers. But there was a fatal flaw in their new existence. The intense, singular intent of each shard began to warp the minds of the mortals who held them. They were no longer just people with power, they were becoming the power itself. Ati, the man who took the shard of ruin, was said to have been a kind and gentle person. Millennia later, he was an entity driven by a relentless urge to destroy everything. The power was consuming the person. This is the fallout promised at the beginning. The new gods began to fight. Reyes, who took the shard of odium, divine hatred untempered by compassion, began a violent crusade across the Cosmere, hunting and killing the other shards. The conspiracy to replace one guard with 16 had unleashed 16 warring wills upon the universe, each with a narrow and extreme and dangerous agenda. The supposed cure was proving far worse than the disease. And a deeper mystery remains. Some evidence suggests that the 16 shards are themselves subdivisions of four more fundamental aspects, Adonalsium. It's possible the original plan was to create only 4 gods, but the power was too immense for a mortal mind to handle, forcing a further split. The murder of a god was far more complicated than anyone new, leaving a legacy of conflict and a puzzle that still hasn't been solved. The story of Adonalsium is one of the deepest pieces of lore in Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere, and the name itself offers a clue to its role. Adonalsium is derived from Adonai, a Hebrew name for God that translates to my master. The name is also a near anagram for the English phrase a mind, a soul, which, while unconfirmed by Sanderson, is a fascinating coincidence given the debate over its true nature. Sanderson has said that the concept of Adonalsium and the shattering came to him while writing one of his earliest unpublished books, Dragonsteel Prime, which you can get if you supported one of Sanderson's Kickstarters, but is still a non-canon version. The full story of what happened on Yolen, this conspiracy, the lives of the 17 conspirators, and the shattering itself is planned to be told in the Dragonsteel trilogy, which he intends to write after completing the main 10 books of the Stormlight archive. So it's going to be a while. So while we have many pieces of the puzzle, the full picture remains one of the most anticipated reveals in modern fantasy. Now, unraveling these kinds of mythologies is what I live for, and if you feel the same way, I'd like to invite you to the Fantasy All Access Library. It's my community over on a platform called School, and it's more than just a place to chat. When you join, you get access to all of my ebooks and audiobooks with a new novel released every month. We also have weekly live calls where we can talk fantasy, writing, and lore just like this, and it's the best way to support the channel and dive deeper into a new fantasy world. So check that out, and I'll see you in the next video.